Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about caulk. We'd like to thank Ben Sharif for liking and sharing the podcast. The first ratcheting caulk gun wasn't invented till 1894.
Can't you say was invented?
Okay. The first ratcheting caulk gun was invented in 1894, and Dix and Pontius developed caulk in the early 1900s, and then they merged their company with the Armstrong Company, so they formed Dix, Armstrong, and Pontius, which formed DAP, the DAP Company. So they had the first commercial latex caulk in 1964, which you would think that before 1964 they'd have caulk.
Yeah, because you were even born then.
So they still harvest latex from rubber trees.
There's rubber trees?
So it's almost like you would harvest maple syrup. You put a slit in the tree and it drips down into a bucket.
That's weird.
So the average rubber tree, it's about 7 years old when it's ready to be tapped, and it produces about a half a cup a day for 25 years.
Wow.
Interesting, huh? In the late 14...
Can you buy a rubber tree?
Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? I mean, it's real specific areas in the world where it grows. In the late 1400s, Christopher Columbus discovered latex in Haiti. So he found all these kids playing with these balls of rubber latex.
Wow.
And then in 1917, they produced siloxane. So this is silicone, oxygen, and methane. And there was a British scientist who, instead of calling it siloxane, he called it silicone by accident. That was in 1927, and the name stuck.
What exactly is caulk?
So it's a soft putty-like material that we're going to fill gaps with. So especially for weatherproofing the house around doors and windows. And then for a lot of our finishing projects inside the house, if you have woodwork that doesn't fit flush up against a wall, let's say, we can fill that with some painter's caulk and paint it, make it look perfect around cabinets. There's a few different types of caulk, and so we'll talk about some of the main ones you're going to see at most hardware stores. You have an inexpensive latex, and this is a rubber-based caulk, and it's slightly flexible. It's good for inside projects. It doesn't really stand up well to large fluctuations in temperature. It has a durability of 2 to 10 years. And what's nice about latex is it doesn't have some of the flammable solvents. It doesn't have the odor of some of the oil-based. And the latex caulks are very easy to smooth with your finger or a tool once you gun it out into a crack. This type of caulk is water-based, it's inexpensive, and it can be painted. And then it also comes in a lot of different colors. Then you can get latex caulk where they add acrylic. So you're going to see acrylic caulk. And they take these clear synthetic resins. These can be smoothed very easily with your finger or with a tool. These can be painted also. This is going to have a little longer life, 5 to 10 year. You can use these inside and out, so the acrylics really add some durability to it. Usually less expensive than latex where they'd add silicone to it. Again, this is going to come in a wide range of colors. And then when you get into something like an acrylic tub and tile caulk, they're going to put in a mildewcide in it, so it's going to be mold and mildew resistant.
Right.
Then you can get siliconized latex caulk. So they add a small amount of silicone to the latex caulk, and this makes it more durable. You can use this inside and out. Very easy to smooth with your finger, and much easier than silicone, which is very sticky. And the water-based versions can be painted. This is going to have a lifespan of 10 to 20 years. And then you can also get this with a mildewcide in it. The next big group of caulks are silicones. So 100% silicone is waterproof, and it's going to stay flexible in a wide range of temperatures, so excellent for outdoor caulking. So around your doors, windows, if you have electrical or plumbing going into your house, it's great to use silicone there. It can flex 3 times its width. So it's going to stand up to sunlight. It's going to stand up to any wet conditions. So inside, too, you can use silicone around tubs and showers. You'd want something that says mildew-proof or mildew-resistant. And this is really good for non-porous material. It's not the best for wood and masonry. It doesn't stick real well to porous surfaces. And then silicone doesn't stick to silicone. So it leaves an oily residue. So if you have existing caulk, or silicone, let's say.
Right.
And you want to fill, let's say it's torn or there's a little gap. You want to make sure that you clean all of that off. And then you need to clean off that oily residue.
So this is like a problem like in your bathtub if somebody's used caulk or they've used silicone.
Right.
And then you're just trying to fill in the gaps.
Right, exactly.
It just peels right off.
Right. It doesn't stick to itself. So most manufacturers, and you should look at the label, but they recommend either cleaning with mineral spirits or naphtha. So you're scraping off all the old silicone.
Right.
And then you have to clean it to get all of that oily residue. Silicone also gives off a solvent as it cures, so some can really smell bad. You got to make sure that you've got ventilation. 100% silicone in most cases can't be painted.
Right.
They have some new formulas that they say can be after it cures, but in general, 100% silicone, you're not going to be painting it, so it's going to come in a wide variety of colors.
Right.
The problem with silicone is it's very sticky and it forms a skin. It kind of cures the skin very quickly, so it's kind of hard to work with if you haven't worked with it before.
So you should practice?
Absolutely, yeah. Practice on a scrap. This is going to have 20 to 50 year durability. So this
super cool.
Yeah, excellent caulk. Very good quality. In fact, some of the first skyscrapers, the windows were held in with silicone because it just stands up to a wide range of temperatures and it makes a very good adhesive.
Right.
Another type of caulk that you're going to see in the hardware store is called butyl, B-U-T-Y-L. And
Never heard of this.
This is a man-made, this is that black stuff. So it's a man-made rubber. It's fairly inexpensive, and it's usually used for gutters, for chimney flashing, for any type of outside joints. So like sometimes stone or brick landscaping. It's usually too messy for most projects, but it's water resistant. It stands up to movement. It stays flexible. This actually has to cure for a few weeks before you can paint it.
So this isn't generally with the other caulks. This is more by gutters?
Usually, yeah. Usually they're going to be merchandising it there. And this is going to have about a 10-year warranty. Another category are the polyurethane caulks, and these are good for outdoor projects because they stick very well to dissimilar materials, so metal to masonry or wood to concrete. A lot of these are expensive, and believe it or not, they don't stand up to sunlight very well.
So why are you using them outside?
Because they're waterproof and flexible, so they're very good in areas, especially, a lot of people don't like to use 100% silicone on stone or masonry, so this is where polyurethanes do a really nice job.
So what, do you have to put another caulk over it?
Then you can either put a thin coat of caulk. Most people are just going to paint it or stain it, and then this has a 5 to 10 year suggested life. If you're looking for a clear caulk, one of the highest rated was Lexel. So it's Lexel, and this is synthetic rubber, and it is crystal clear. It's pretty amazing. It won't yellow. It's super elastic, so this will move up to 400% in a joint.
Wow.
It's waterproof, it's mold and mildew resistant, and it sticks to most surfaces. So this is very sticky, and it's a solvent cure, so it can be stinky. But if you have a project where you just want the caulk to disappear, that Lexel does a nice job. And that same company, it's Sashco, so it's Sashco. They make the big stretch. And this is an acrylic caulk that sticks to most surfaces. This you can use indoor and outdoor. It's water-based. It's paintable, so it's really a nice caulk. Most caulks, they usually only want you to bridge a gap about a half an inch or smaller. With this, you can go up to a 2-inch gap with this big stretch, and it stretches 500%. So that's a really interesting product. And then another one of the really high-rated clear caulks was OSI's Quad, Q-U-A-D. And this is actually a wet surface caulk. So most caulks you have to put on dry surfaces. This is considered crystal clear, and you can actually put it on damp surfaces. So, it's nice depending on the project you have.
You should read the label, because with a lot of latex caulks, it'll be labeled clear, but when you read the label, it says it goes on white, and then it dries clear. So I can't even tell you the amount of returns that come back because they put it on and they say...
Well, you freak out.
Well, they put the wrong caulk in this tube because it's white and it's not clear.
Well, it's got to be a drag, man, if you don't read the instructions and you're gunning this out and you get white.
Right.
But it is amazing that after 24, sometimes depending on the heat and the humidity, it might take 48 hours But that's wild that it goes on kind of milky white and then turns clear.
But I would say instead of getting in your car, driving to the hardware store to do a return, if you
Read the instructions?
if you were to stay at your house and you were to read the label, it would tell you, hey, this goes on white and it dries clear.
So read the label.
Yes.
There you go. So for most of your projects around the house, you're going to have a choice between the squeeze tube of caulk and then a caulking tube that you would use a caulk gun with. With the
You never call it a squeeze tube. You always call it a squeezy
tube. So with the squeezy tubes, you're going to have about 5 ounces of caulk, and that's usually enough for an average tub or shower,
right?
Just to give you a feel for how much. And then your caulking
Most of them
tube...
are 5.5 ounces, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Most of them are 5.5 ounces.
All right. If you want to be technical, yes. And caulking tubes are going to be around 10 ounces.
10.1.
And if you're using a caulk tube, then you need a caulk gun. So the squeezy tube, and you know what? I just saw GE is making these caulk singles. So it's a tiny little package.
So like the super glue single?
Yeah. It's and it looks small like that. And I looked on their website. I couldn't find how many ounces, but it looks interesting.
That I don't know. I'm sorry. I failed.
They say you can dispense it with one hand, squeeze it to dispense it, because you kind of tear the little top off.
Right.
And they say that for like a tub or a window, you might need 2 to 3 of these. So my guess would probably be about 2 ounces.
Well, it is a drag when you buy, a tube of caulk or a squeezy tube, and you don't use all of it. You end up wasting it because it goes bad so quickly.
Yeah, so it's nice to judge the project. So again, if you're doing a tub or a shower, if you get a squeezy tube, then that's usually the right amount. If you get a caulk tube, if you're not using it anywhere around the house, you would generally want to put either a cap on the top of it, or you take a long 2-inch nail, shove that in there and wrap aluminum foil over the tip, or put some,
So have
tape.
you ever done that and the caulk be okay?
No, never. Well, when we were using caulk all the time,
right.
when we were remodeling houses and investing in real estate,
like,
then it was
sure,
great the next day.
in a matter of weeks when you were...
I don't even think weeks.
Yeah.
It'd probably be bad. But yeah, I would try to use it as much as I could.
And then just toss it.
Yeah. I don't mind those squeezy tubes, though, for little projects because they're easy to control. It's nice if you don't have a caulk gun.
Right.
They also have, so we tried out this Flex Shot, so it's Flex Shot, and this is 7 or 8 ounces. Do you know exactly how much it is? But these are pressurized cans of caulk.
Right.
So if you have a project and you don't have a caulk gun, this is just nice because as you push that tip, so you cut the tip to whatever size opening you want, and as you push the nozzle, it's pressurized, and so you can control the amount of caulk that comes out.
So it kind of looks like a whipped cream can.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's pretty interesting, and it actually smooths really nice.
Right.
At least the one I tried.
Well, why would they be any different?
Well, I'm sure they have different products, but the one I had just
Flex Shot.
I had the Flex Shot basic caulk, and,
right.
and it was easy to smooth. I don't know whether they might have an oil-based also. I didn't check that.
So. Do you have any tips for caulking?
So the key thing is to clean the surface. So you want to remove all the old caulk, clean off any dirt, any loose material, and then if you're removing the silicone, you have to make sure you get it all off, remove that oily film. Look at the label. Companies are going to recommend either cleaning the surface with rubbing alcohol or mineral spirits, but there's a lot of new chemicals, so see what they recommend. If you're using rubbing alcohol, it's either going to be isopropyl alcohol or ethyl alcohol. Did you know that 8 ounces of isopropyl alcohol will kill you?
No, I did
So
not know
this is
that.
not for consumption?
Go figure.
So they use this as a disinfectant for cuts, to sterilize tools. Rubbing alcohol is actually good for cleaning bathroom fixtures. Diluted, it makes a good window cleaner. And then you can clean a dry erase board.
No way.
With rubbing alcohol.
Oh, no way, I know that. So if you put a permanent marker on a dry erase board, you can clean it with isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah.
Because we did a video on it.
That's a great tip. It's also good for removing soap scum and body oils if you're just doing regular caulk. Even if you didn't use silicone, it actually is good for prepping to put your a traditional or a tub and tile caulk. With most caulks, the surface has to be dry. If you're removing caulk around doors and windows, I would say a utility knife is really a nice tool for delicate surfaces, or let's say around tubs and showers. I like the plastic caulk removing tools. And they have, two of the most popular is like a flat claw-shaped tool. And I found that to be fairly hard to use. They've got a V-shaped plastic tool that I've had really good results with.
Right.
So you kind of dig, you push forward with it, and it really digs it out.
Is that the one that has a longer handle?
Yeah, and I've had a couple that have like rubberized handles,
Right.
so it's really easy to hold, and you get a lot of force on it. Anything that it leaves, you can use a plastic scraper, then follow up with like a 1-inch wide
Right.
plastic scraper so that you're not, scratching any surfaces. And then if you have an area where you just can't get it off, then that's where I would use like a flat razor blade. Mm-hmm. You also want to remove any mold and mildew. Probably one of the less toxic things is just distilled white vinegar and let it soak, spray it on, let it soak, scrub it. Or you can use a bleach solution. Most manufacturers recommend 1 part bleach to 2 parts water. Once you have your area clean and it's dry, you're going to want to cut the tip of your caulk.
This part always scares me. I don't know why.
Cutting the tip?
Yeah.
So
Because if you cut it too big, I mean, it's a drag.
And that's the biggest mistake most homeowners make the first few times they're using caulk, is they have too big of a hole. Because most of the caulk tubes are going to have like those 45-degree little marks. And so most people go right to that first mark, which is a pretty big opening.
Yeah.
So you do not have to follow that. A 45-degree cut is really easy to use, but I would always say try to match the size of the opening in that tip to whatever the gap is that you're filling.
Right.
And you're going to get the best results. If you under apply, you can always add a little bit and smooth it in. But once you have too much, it gets messy. When you try to smooth it, it's just hard to work with. And then another thing you have to worry about is on a caulk tube, so a tube that you're using with a caulk gun, they've got a foil seal on the top of that tube at the bottom of the tip,
Right.
and you have to pierce that. So the problem some people make is they try to take a nail or something long, and they're forcing it in the tip and spreading that tip too wide open.
Yeah.
So a good quality caulk gun is going to have a tool, so it's just a long metal rod.
They could use as a weapon.
And then you just pierce that
Like
foil.
a bayonet.
Well, you know what I like to use is the monkey hook. So that's that J-shaped hook that you can hang things on.
Right. So easy a monkey could use it.
Right, so it's a wall hook. And what it does is you can open that up a little bit. So it's J-shaped.
Right.
And you can open that up a little bit, and it's very thin, so you can use that to pierce it. And I always keep a monkey hook in my tool bag or toolbox because I also use it when I'm putting in the rubber seats and the springs on a faucet, like a Delta Peerless. So I use that to pull it out of the body of the faucet.
Wow, it's like a multi-purpose tool.
Yeah, and then when I put it back in, I drop it in.
Nice.
So that works out real well.
All right, so back to the caulk gun, though.
Right.
So what happens if you load your caulk gun, you don't pierce that foil thing?
And you start squeezing your caulk gun. So now it all starts coming out the bottom of the caulk thing.
Drag.
So you've got a little round plastic piece on the bottom of that tube, and if you don't hit that foil, usually the caulk just starts coming out of the bottom.
And all over your hand.
Exactly. Once you're ready to start caulking, there's 2 schools of thought on how to apply it. So some people like to push it into the crack, so pushing it forward, which I find that the caulk kind of spreads out too wide. Or you can pull it, which I usually do. If this is the first time you're using a caulk gun, I would practice on a scrap piece of material and just get a feel, because you have to have smooth, consistent pressure on the trigger.
Yeah.
Again, depending on the type of caulk gun you have, you're going to have some type of release lever in most cases where when you're finished at an end or a corner and you pull the caulk gun away, if you release, some of the caulk guns keep putting pressure on it, so caulk is spilling out of it. For latex caulk, it's easy to smooth this bead with your finger or a caulk tool. Some people like the back of a plastic spoon.
Oh, really?
And then under applying the bead is why it makes sense when you're smoothing this out. So if you have a very thin bead, and let's say you're in a corner and you pull your finger is spanning that gap, and you're putting just a nice even pressure, and you're creating a very smooth bead in that corner.
Because caulk should just kind of blend in. It shouldn't be like an accent.
Right. And there shouldn't be a lip, exactly.
Right.
And you can also use painter's tape on both sides of the crack. So if you're not used to caulking and you don't have a feel for how big the bead should be, then you can put painter's tape on both sides of the crack. Again, use a very moderate amount in that, and then use your finger and really apply heavy pressure. and you're putting it smooth in that opening, and then when you pull up the tape right away so that it doesn't form a skin on it, it's going to have just a perfect look. So it's going to look very professional.
So when you're smoothing it, you should have a paper towel or a rag, a clean rag that you're using to wipe your finger
rag,
constantly.
wipe your hands, and it's nice to have a damp rag too, depending on what you're using. And then for silicone or any oil-based, like the butyl or the polyurethane, any of these sticky caulks,
good luck.
It's really a drag. And the first few times you use it, it's a whole different world than traditional latex caulks. So what you need to do is have a small container with water in it, and then you're going to put a couple of drops, and just a couple of drops of liquid soap, and stir it up, and then you're going to dip your finger into this, and you just want it damp, and you're going to do just a small section, a few inches at a time, wipe it off, dip your finger, wipe it, and you're going to use this soapy water to smooth it. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess.
Well, I think most people are used to using a regular caulk where you could do a whole length of your shower, let's say.
Right, absolutely.
Up, from the ceiling to the floor, and you're still able to go to the top and smooth it.
Right, and multiple times. Like with regular caulk, you just smooth it a few times, keep wiping your finger off, and
with
no problem.
silicone, you have to do it in small little chunks.
Yeah, and do one section at a time. I would say if you have, multiple areas that you're doing, finish one section, then move on to the next, because you don't want that skin to form, especially with these oil-based caulks. If you're working on a project where you have a very large gap, so most caulks are designed for about a half an inch or smaller. If you have a deeper or wider gap, you should fill that with a backer rod. So this is a flexible foam rod that you can stuff into the crack to fill the void. And it comes in a bunch of sizes, so 3/8, half, 3/4, 5/8. You can get them pretty big. You can also cut these with a razor knife if you need to, stuff it in. You'd probably want to leave, if you're filling a gap, leave about 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to fill it with your caulk.
So these aren't always going to be by the caulks, though, right? Sometimes this is by the weather stripping?
Right, exactly. Yeah, depending on who merchandise the store, yeah. Another thing you should be looking at is how long it takes for your product to cure. Some require 24 hours or longer before they can be exposed to water. Some of these silicones for your tub, you've got to wait 24 hours before you can use the tub or the shower.
Yes, we should definitely plan this out.
Right, so it's nice to see. And then I've seen a couple products that actually now cure in 3 hours.
Wow. Are you going to talk about types of caulk gun?
So there's two main types. You have a ratchet rod and a smooth rod. So ratcheting style, they have this rod that pushes the caulk, and it has serrations all down the rod, and this catches onto the trigger to force the caulk out. So as you squeeze it, you kind of hear this clacking sound as it grabs onto these little serrations. And with this, you have to grab the end of that rod and turn it. There's usually a 90-degree end piece. You have to turn that to take the pressure off the tube, and these are usually your least expensive. A lot of them don't have extra features. The smooth rod caulk guns, a couple dollars more, but they're much better, much easier to control. It takes less pressure to push the caulk out of the tube, and most of these are going to have some type of spring-loaded plate that keeps pressure on the rod, and then there's a little lever attached to that, so rather than turning the whole rod and pulling it out, at the end of the gun, you just have to press this little lever with your thumb, and that releases the pressure. And then there's some caulk guns that say dripless, and they automatically relieve the pressure when you release the trigger.
Which you should definitely try out the different types of triggers, because if you're doing a lot of caulking, your fingers get very tired.
Right. Yeah, and these smooth rods actually requires less pressure, so they do a nice job. And I like the smooth rod because most of these are going to have a hole in the handle where you can cut the tip.
Right.
So it's got a tip cutting hole, and then it has this opening rod, so it has that long piece of metal.
The bayonet.
Right, to pierce your foil.
What are some top-rated companies for caulk?
3 of the top-rated and easy to find in hardware stores are GE, DAP, it's just DAP, and Red Devil.
Do you have anything else to add?
I would say you need to look at the temperature. Most caulks, it needs to be 40 degrees or warmer. You want a half an inch or less of a gap. Otherwise, you're going to have to use some type of backer rod. Your water-based latex caulks are the easiest to work with, easiest to smooth. And then look at the warranty. That's really going to guide you to the best product that you're using. if
The
you're
labels are going to say what it's used for, too. If it's for siding, for windows, for trim, for showers, for kitchens.
Right, absolutely. Like that for kitchens or bathrooms, you want mildew resistant.
Right.
So look at, and what's wild is you need to see what it's not compatible with. There's a couple of caulks that you can't use on material like copper. And then also what's wild is oil-based caulk around double pane or thermal pane window. The oils in that actually break down the sealants that hold that double pane window together.
That's a drag.
So it can break it down, and then you'll get that fogging.
Oh.
So read the label.
Well, if you're purchasing several tubes of caulk, make sure they're all the same size or the same kind.
Right, and compatible, and the same color.
Same color, because from our experience, people do not put these back in the right spot.
Right.
Employees don't put it into the right location.
Right.
So make sure you're buying all the same tube. Let's wrap this up.
You can download our book, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, from Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
Book 2 should be out in
Coming
January
soon.
to an Amazon near you. You can subscribe to our podcast on Stitcher or iTunes.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.